Hello everyone, this is Peridoodle Productions, and in this video I'm going to be going through a tutorial on a Steven Universe background. There's going to be a lot to cover in this video, so it's probably going to be very long. I am doing this in an app called Speedpaint, which I would definitely recommend. It's kind of confusing, but you do learn it eventually. So first off, what I usually do when doing a background is I do the sky, although this might be not a good idea and probably best to do last. So what we're going to do instead is the sand. And at first you just do a flat colour of everything. So I'm going to take this to the bottom and we have the colour palettes at the top. And this layer 1 is just what I'm going to use. I'm going to call it sand. It's always good to label stuff because then you know where's what and you know. So my sand colours are not very good. I probably should edit that, so we're just going to use this yellow as the flat colour. So we'll take the opacity down so we can, I hate to use the word trace, but that's basically what we're doing here. And I'll just speed this bit up so we can get to when it's done. Okay, so now that we have the flat colour, now what I'm going to do is the sky, and we can bring this example layer above us now because we're going to need it for this hand. Okay, the sky. For the sky we need to create a colour layer below the sand. Because we're going to do a gradient, we don't want it to appear above the sand, so we're just going to call this sky. Okay, for the sky we just do one flat colour. So I'm going to choose one of my colours here. I'm going for the daytime one, and at the top here on this grid there is one called the gradient tool, and we have to put it on foreground. If you put it on fore back, you try to do another one, it will swap sides. We don't want that, so we just put foreground on. And I'd suggest just for the flat colour you do just the middle gradient one, so not the darker side and not the lighter side, the one in between. Okay, now to get the gradient we want to do a clipping layer. So there's just a button that says clipping, and that will mean it'll only appear on the sky. So we're going to choose this dark blue. Let's do it a few times down, and then this lighter blue at the bottom. Okay, and if you want to sort of blend it more, you can choose the blur pen. Doesn't look like it does much, but trust me, it sometimes looks better. So now we have the sky and the sand. Probably what we do now is we can do that hand. So we just create a layer above the sand, and we are just going to turn the opacity up so we can get the colour of it. Actually, let's use one of my colours. So I'm going to choose one of my rock colours. Let's just go for this one. Let's go back down to this layer, and we want just the pen. And then go over it. I'd suggest, if you are doing a background off by heart and you're not tracing one, I'd suggest doing the lining first. You know, you got the rough sketch and the lining, but when we're doing this, we just go straight into the colouring. I mean, you could do the lining first, but this is just the way I do it. Okay, now I have the flat colour of the hand, and everything looks a bit strange at the minute, but don't worry, it won't soon. Now what I would probably do is like the lining. This is fairly easy as well. I would suggest using, I would suggest using the Oil Pastel Thin for the lining. It looks like this. That's the closest one I can find on this app. I don't know what other ones are available on any other apps, but yeah, that's the one I use. Okay, so that's done. That looks like that. And we're going to do the same for the sand as well. Just create a layer above the sand. I should be naming these, but I can't be bothered. It's too much effort.
This is that once in a lifetime.
Okay, it doesn't matter if it's not 100% perfect because we are actually going to move it anyway. Because if we take a look at some of the ones, actually that's a terrible example, you can't, they're blurry. Okay, ignore that. But if we take a look at some actual Steven Universe images, the lining doesn't actually match up with the actual colour and object, if that makes any sense. But yeah, that's where we're going. And we can do this right now actually. So if we look at this top panel as well, there's this one called the move tool, and you can just move it upwards slightly. I don't know how much, it's however you want to move it. And then if like you've moved it too much to the side, you can fill it in there. Make sure it's all perfect. And this will also apply for this hand as well. So if we just go up to the lining on the hand, let's just have a look if... Yeah, it does it on the hand as well. So just going to go to the lining there and move it very slightly to the side. Okay, so that's fairly easy. That's like one of the easiest parts in the backgrounds, obviously. And if you see any like tiny mistakes, you can just go and fill those in. I apologize if I'm extremely bad at this tutorial. You know, it's always just so much easier when you've not got to explain anything. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is the sea. And I'm usually terrible at drawing the sea. It's just, Steven Universe seas just look amazing. So I'm going to do a layer above the sky but below the sand. I'm going to take some of mine water. See, there's just so many you could choose from. But I think I'm going to go with one of these blues. That one looks nice. Let's go back to that layer. Turn that off. We can turn the opacity down on that one as well. Okay. So we can just do this in the normal pen. And I'll be back once I've done this. getting somewhere. I mean, you can't really see this sand line, so I might move it down a bit. So you can move it the opposite way too. Doesn't look as good though. Just go with that for now. Okay, now I think this is pretty much all the flat colours done. This is not the best background I've ever done, it's just hard to explain and go along at the same time. But we're gonna go with it. So now I'm going to do the clouds, which is one of my favourite bits ever in drawing Steven Universe stuff. So if you saw what I did with the water, there's a little ruler on the side here. I don't know why it's not letting me press it. There we go. And you have a bunch of these. I did not mean to press that. And there's like these weird cloud shapes in the sky, so I go for this parallel one. And usually I just go for one of these colours. This one's quite nice. That's the sky. There we go. And you can just get the biggest size. And you can choose which way you want your clouds to face, so I'm going to go with it like this. And we're going to turn to the normal pen brush and have it on white. And then just go upwards. It's literally as easy as that. Actually, I might turn it a bit more to the side. Yep, so you can have them different shapes. They can be going up and down. You can have a small one next to this big one. There can be two like that. And one like that. I mean, it can be anything. It can be anything. Any colours. So for like this one, they can be overlapping. It can literally be whatever you want. But for the sake of this video, I'm just going to go with something simple like this. So we can turn that off now. And on this same layer, in many of their clouds, the ends are blurred. So I'm just going to put the blur brush on and move this downwards. It's really easy. It kind of looks like that. So you get all of the ends. Okay, now that that's done, all we have to do is turn the opacity down so it's kind of not very visible. It's what I've seen in a lot of their backgrounds, but we're just going to go with that for now. In one such as this, where the clouds are big and they're a flat colour, I mean, that's a different type of cloud. This one is something else I'm going for. But as I said, it's all up to you. You can do it in whichever way you want. So now let's do the actual clouds. We're just going to select the pen brush again. So to this. And literally they can just be big fluffs. So I'm just going to go ahead and draw some clouds for you, and I'll be back when I'm done. I think something like this will do, maybe just one more down here, one tiny diddy one will do. And as you saw, I used the ruler again to get the straight lines on the bottom. Okay, I mean, this isn't perfect and they're very wonky like that, but it's a tutorial, so it doesn't need to be perfect. And now we're going to shade them. So you have to do another layer and put the clipping on. And then we can just let's just take one of these. So like this one. And you can do, it's just as simple as that, you just draw over the bottom of it. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that now again. Something like that's good enough. I'm just taking a look at something like this one over here. Sort of, let's just fix that up. Yeah, it didn't really work out, but I think that'll just do. I tried my best. We're going to do another clipping, and it's going to be below the one we've just done, and I'll show you why. And I'm just looking at this. There are some smaller shading parts that I'm just going to fill in now. I've chosen this colour, so let me show you what I mean. So if we just, something like that. I mean, that doesn't look very good, does it? You know what, something like that'll do. Let's just turn the opacity down a bit. I mean, it adds a little effect, but I don't think it really matters too much. So let's just go with that. Anyway, it's starting to come together a little bit. There's still a lot of details in the sky. And because this is such a big canvas, like the biggest 500 thing is this big. Like, it's not very big compared to the whole page. So these lines aren't as big, but that's okay. So next just going to do another layer above that, and it's not going to be a clipping layer. As you can see, there are some just like tiny lines that are everywhere. So we're just going to do that, and we want to turn the parallel lines back on. They should be in the same direction as these before. So I'm just going to do another white one, and these ones are fairly small, about that size, maybe a bit bigger, yeah, and they are pointed on the end, but they're also blurred. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a bunch of these, and then I'll be back in a sec. And it's not perfect, but I'm rushing, and you know what, that'll do. Turn that off. And now we're going to do another clipping layer on these. So as we can see, some of them are shaded, like that's really cool, how it's shaded above there. So we'll just pick some sort of darker colour. We can go down and do the airbrush instead. Allows you to do like that. Oh, that looks really cool. I've never done it like this before. Perfect. You don't need to do it on all of them, but it just looks cool, so we're going to do it on all of them. Okay, now probably the last thing in the sky is all of the stars and the shiny bits. So just another layer above, and we're going to do a bunch of tiny dots. That's literally it. Just going to get normal pen brush again. And they are literally tiny diamonds, like this. That is extremely bad and messy, but you get my point. It's just a diamond. That one's massive. Okay, so that's basically how it goes. I mean, this is just a typical trashy background that I'm doing. But I mean, if you're going for full-on proper detail, you'd make these bits bigger, you'd add more clouds, you'd probably add more stars, I don't know. That was very rushed. But yeah, that's what we've got for the sky so far. Quite a few layers for the sky. Now I'm going to move on to the sea. Now, the sea is kind of the bit I fail at, so I'm just sort of looking at these. I really don't know. So what I'm going to do is just do a bunch of different sort of colours in it. I really, like, how do you do that? They're too talented. So I'm just going to pick, I don't know, just a nice one. Yeah. And I honestly don't know how I'm going to do this or explain it, so it's probably best that I just draw it and you guys watch. So yeah, I'll just speed this up. Okay, that is really hard to draw. I can't even. It probably looks super easy and I'm just being extremely dumb. I think this is good enough. I didn't think the sea was going to be that hard to explain or draw. But anyway, let's move on because I don't like the sea. So I guess the only thing to do now is the shading on the sand and that hand thingy. So let's do a clipping on the sand, and I guess we're just gonna have to take some darker colours. My sunset sunrise sand colours are terrible, so let's just go with this kind of orangey colour. So let's take a look at this one. Let's just move it up here so we can see. It's sort of just kind of like a mix of colours again, annoyingly. So let's give it a shot. This is probably the best we're gonna get. So let's just forget about it. let's just colour this. Let's put some shading on it. Okay, I think that'll do. So now is one of my favourite parts of the shading. I usually use fluffy watercolour pens, I think. Might be this one. Yeah, it's this one. So in a lot of the artwork, you can't tell on there, but they have sort of, you can also use a splatter brush, but I prefer to use this one. It sort of just like adds that little, you know, dotty effect, I guess. And you can just sort of put it anywhere you want. You can do some of this here as well. And now we just sort of add the final details. You can add things like, sometimes if we bring our oil pastel thin brush back, there are often just some little details on the floor that you can do. It doesn't show these in this picture, but it does on a lot of their backgrounds, so I'm just gonna go with that. We can also, in the sky, this is just on another layer, if we get the pen and it's on white and we just do this big line in the sky, kind of like that, colour it in and take the opacity down, then you get the blur brush, put it on the biggest and blur the edge of it. I don't know why, but it just kind of adds that nice effect, and it's in quite a lot of the backgrounds too, so I'm just going to go with that. I'm very unhappy with the ocean. I'm just sorry about that. I've actually never done this before, so I'm not sure how this is going to turn out. Probably just use pen for the ocean, you know. This is very sadly blocking that line we did. There we are. I'm going to bring that there. And I might just add some tiny, that's too small, some tiny, like, you know. Okay, I think we're about done. I mean, this is a disaster, but it's actually not too bad. Just ignore the fact that I can't draw oceans and that the sand's a horrible colour. But apart from that, you know, this is just a tutorial on the brushes you should use. Like, the layers kind of failed. And yeah, make sure you do your clippings and make sure that, you know, you've layered it all correctly. And yeah, I think that's it. Just to explain some better backgrounds that I've done, for example this one, as you can see I've used this lining thing. I've only used 2 colours for the sand, used that brush, and we've got 3 different colours here that have been 4 with that brush as well. Yeah, the sea went a lot better on this one. I just used it, like I said in the video, a lot of different colours and then blended it all together. It turned out okay. I did that thing in the sky and some light beams and got a little steep over here. Also, another background that I've done which is a little bit better, the clouds look nice. We've got those things in there. See, this is really simple. We've just got 3 different colours here with these going on and tiny details in the floor. So yeah, this is one of my favourite backgrounds that I've ever done. Also, another background I did, I mean, as you can tell, I'm not the best at seas. I just did a bunch of different colours there. This was one of my earlier on backgrounds that, you know, I didn't really understand it too much, but now that I have a better understanding, I brought to you that terrible tutorial. So yeah, thanks guys for watching this video. I apologise for being terrible at explaining things and talking. You learned at least something, and I hope that you can create some amazing backgrounds with this tutorial. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I hope you're looking forward to my episode. Goodbye!